independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And my name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. You can jump in online, thechatshow.com. You can also, of course, do the Twitter thing at Chad Benson Show. And to let everybody know what you think, just call us, 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD, and you are on. So much to talk about. First, we get to President Trump in North Korea over the weekend. Lots going on. President Trump, I agree with the Wall Street Journal, he tends to think all diplomacy is personal. And if he can just get some kind of a relationship with the leader of that other country, then he'll be able to do the deal. The art of the deal, man. And he has been able to get some deals. I mean, you look at what's happening with Mexico. You look what's happened with Canada. You look at what's happened with some of the things with the EU and the tariffs. You look at what he's doing now with China and the tariffs. And they had a little meeting. They're like, all right, let's hold off on the tariffs for a little bit. Let's try and renegotiate and get things done. And you're stealing our intellectual property. And it's really unfair the way you're subsidizing certain things and taxing other things. And so we got to work all that out. Okay, great. But sometimes you start to think to yourself, not so sure that flattering Kim, Mr. Kim over there in North Korea, is going to change things. Well, at least he's talking to them. I agree. At least they're not shooting nukes at us. I agree. My question is President Trump overestimating his ability to make the art of the deal with somebody like Kim in North Korea? He was very excited. President Trump was very excited about making history and shaking hands and having this meeting with Kim in North Korea. And what is it going to do? And did he go a little over the top with the flattery? Okay, let me let you listen to a little piece of this audio and tell me what you think. So President Trump goes in. He's meeting with Mr. Kim in North Korea. Kim goes off and he's talking. Finally, Trump gets his speech. He gets his chance to talk here, okay? And cut 14 is President Trump expressing thanks that Trump and Kim were able to shake hands at the border after Trump had reached out to him via social media. Here you go.
Well, I want to thank you, Chairman. You hear the power of that voice. Nobody's heard that voice before. He doesn't do news conferences, in case you haven't heard. And this was a special moment, and this is, I think, really, as President Moon said, this is a historic moment, the fact that we're meeting. And I want to thank Chairman Kim for something else. When I put out the social media notification, if he didn't show up, the press was going to make me look very bad. So you made us both look good, and I appreciate it. But we've developed a great relationship. I really think that if you go back 2.5 years and you look at what was going on, prior to my becoming president, it was a very, very bad situation, a very dangerous situation for South Korea, for North Korea, for the world. And I think the relationship that we've developed has meant so much to so many people. And it's just an honor to be with you, and it was an honor that you asked me to step over that line, and I was proud to step over the line. I thought you might do that. I wasn't sure, but I was ready to do it, and I want to thank you. It's been great. Been great. Very historic. They were just saying, one of the folks from the media was saying this could be a very historic moment, and I guess that's what it is. But yeah, I enjoy being with you, and thank you very much.
I guess that's what it is, I mean, it's historic. And okay, listen, here's the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is that Trump is trying to do something about what's been going on in North Korea, different than what Obama did and what George W. did before him and what Clinton did before him, because what we've been doing for decades was really being held hostage by North Korea. North Korea's like, we got a nuke. Yeah, we know. We'd like you to stop doing that and stop helping other people get nukes. So, okay, but we have a nuke. Okay, yeah, we got that part. What do you want? We want oil. We want money. We want Jack Daniels. We want Levi's jeans. All right, we'll give you that stuff. Just please stop making the nukes, all right, and quit helping other people make the nukes. Absolutely, we'll do that. And, of course, they were cheating on it from day one. And they've been cheating on every deal they've ever done with us. So here's Trump trying something a little bit different, and he's trying to get to know him, and he's reaching across the DMZ, and he's going and shaking his hand. And he said, okay, that's the good part is he's trying. But are you really happy? Now, look, I voted for Trump. I'm certainly not voting for Hillary. All right. And in this next election, I'm certainly not voting for any of the people I've seen stand up on the Democrat debate stand so far and raise their hand to destroy private insurance, raise their hand to give illegal aliens free health care. And now they're talking about forced busing again for the schools. I mean, I'm not making that up. This isn't the 60s, but evidently it is to these people. But my point is, are you happy that Trump is talking to Kim in North Korea and saying it was an honor to be with you? It was an honor that you asked me to step over that line, that he enjoyed being with him, that I want to thank you over and over and over again. It's been great. It's been great that we have a great relationship. This guy's in charge of a nation state that has torture camps, real torture camps. You know, not where we're trying to hold children and their parents so that we don't have to separate them because they came into our country illegally, where we're giving them 3 meals a day, a place to sleep, and medical care, and somehow we're called horrible people. We're talking about real torture camps is what North Korea is doing. That we had Eric Wambier, our own person, killed by the North Koreans, and Trump's sitting there saying, it was an honor to be with you. It was an honor that you asked me to step over that line. I enjoy being with you. It's been great. You hear that voice? It's a strong voice. The power of his voice, most people don't get to hear that. Thanks him numerous times. We got a great relationship. Really? Now, look, I understand trying to reach out to somebody, trying to build a relationship. I even understand a little bit of flattery to try and get him going. I understand Nixon went to China. I get all that. But really? He had to say it was just an honor to be with you? It was an honor that you asked me to step over that line? Come on. Somebody tell me what's going on here. And I understand if you're a Trump supporter, you mad at me? Let me know why. You're telling me you're proud of that. Well, Greg, you don't understand. It's a way to start the deal. It's like the art of the deal. Really? Like when George W. Bush said he looked into Putin's eyes and could see his soul, and he's the guy we can deal with? How's that working out? Really? So the Wall Street Journal says the Trump doctrine, with this president, the diplomacy is always personal. The symbolism more potent than the substance, the handshake, the interview. Trump is betting, as always, that flattery and personal engagement can persuade Mr. Kim to give up his nuclear weapons. I understand that's why he flatters these types of people so much, but does it work? The two men ordered aides to resume negotiations. The problem is, last couple guys that negotiated for North Korea with Trump's people, they're not around anymore. We don't know where they are. There are people who think that they're dead because Kim didn't like the negotiations. It was an honor to be with you. Really? Kim wants the U.S. to ease the sanctions before he does anything, before he even takes the modest steps to discuss his research labs, his test facilities, his nuclear stockpiles. We're not even talking about dismantling them. We're talking about just getting started with that. So is Trump at a point? This is what I'm worried about. And you tell me if it's a weird thought in my head. Because up till now, I think Trump has done a good job with North Korea. I don't like some of the nice things he said about Kim, but you know what? If it keeps them from testing new missiles and building nukes and helping other countries build nukes, then so be it, all right? But are we getting to the point at the end of Trump's first term that he wants a big win, that he's going to be willing to ease the sanctions on promises from Kim that he's going to do X, Y, Z, not really seeing anything happen? 844-DIG-CHAT. 844-DIG-CHAT. That's my question to you to start this thing. Because that worries me. That Trump is going to get to the point where he feels like, hey, in order to get something done, I'm going to have to give a little bit. What I'm going to give a little bit of some of these sanctions, and then we're going to just go on the promises of North Korea, and they always break their promises. Trust but verify was good for Reagan, and I agree with it. Oh, in the meantime, the new White House press secretary, Stephanie Grisham, the one that took over for Huckabee Sanders, she's in there, and she's in a scrum, man. She's like in a hockey game, and she's body checking the North Koreans out of the way so that you can get the American press in to cover what's going on between Trump and Kim. The North Koreans didn't want our people in. She body checks them, and she goes, go, 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 and they're running through, and she got bruised, evidently, but then even the left-wing press is praising her. Yes. The jostling grew especially intense as reporters tried to enter a room inside Freedom House on the southern side of Panmunjom. Every time I see Panmunjom written, I'm thinking it's pandemonium. I don't know why. It just pops up. Well, it is pandemonium. Didn't you see what happened? Panmunjom. Trump and Kim were meeting after exchanging their initial handshakes on the border. She came out of the meeting with bruises, but she's okay. She's okay. By the way, that meeting was to promote peace between the two nations, and they're having to fight over it. Now the people of South Korea so far, at least the president, seems pretty happy with what Trump is doing. Haven't really gotten upset with what he said about it's an honor to be with you and all that. But it just seems like maybe we're going a step too far. What is he going to do next? What is the next step in this? And will it make a difference at all, or is this all really style over substance? I don't know, but it's something. It's something. We'll keep you up to date on that. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD. And I want to get into this whole idea about getting rid of private insurance totally. The Democrats are talking about Medicare for all, and they're kind of all over the map because you got Bernie Sanders, you got Elizabeth Warren saying absolutely that's the end of private insurance. We don't need it. Everybody's going to have Medicare. That's what Medicare for all means. Everybody gets it. And then there are other Democrats, Amy Klobuchar and a few others, that are saying, whoa, wait a second now. We're not saying get rid of all private insurance. I mean, a lot of people like their private insurance. You know, kind of like when Obama said, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. Like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. And all of a sudden, that's a lie. And then we were called liars here on Talk Radio. Who was right? Yes, we were telling you the truth. They were lying. And people like us that said this is their first step towards single-payer nationalized health care said, no, that's a lie. You're trying to scare people. And now what are they saying? Obamacare was a nice step, but we've got to move on now. We were telling the truth. They were lying. But there are some that are saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't throw out all of private health insurance. But then there's somebody named Kamala Harris. She's rising in the polls because of her little attack on Joe Biden and segregation and busing, and she's all over the map. She's for getting rid of private insurance. She's not for getting rid of private insurance. So we're going to play you some of her audio and this whole idea of if we truly got rid of private insurance, what would that do to your doctor and your hospital? We'll take that in just a second. My name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad Benson. 844-DIG-CHAD if you want to be part of it. This is the Chad Benson Show. Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. To be a part of it, 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD online, thechadshow.com. The handle at Twitter is at Chad Benson Show. And yeah, we're talking about what's going on with Trump in North Korea. Glad he's reaching out. Glad he's working on this. Did he need to say it was my honor? It's great to be with you. All these superlatives and flattery. This is the guy who's running a nation state that is running torture camps, killing its own people. At some point, you got to acknowledge that too, don't you? Or at least tone down the flattery a little bit. And as I say, I'm a guy who voted for Trump, and I'll vote for him again against any of these nutbags running on the Democratic side. But come on now. All right. And then what's going on with your health insurance? As people like me and Chad on Talk Radio told you when Obama was doing this with Obamacare, this is the step towards nationalized health care. You're liars. Okay, now they're all saying, yep, that was a step towards national health care. You get to keep your plan. You get to keep your doctor if you want. No, you won't be able to. You're liars. And, of course, you didn't get to. This is going to save you $2,500 per family for the... No way is that going to work. They're liars. And, of course, we're right. So they lied about everything. We told you the truth. And now here they come again, and they're starting to tell you lies again. Because they're starting to say, oh, you don't have to get rid of all private insurance to do this. And even if you did, it really wouldn't be that. It would actually save you money. It's total nonsense. And so then you got Kamala Harris. She's out there saying that she's for getting rid of all private insurance, and then she's not. And then she's for it, and then she's not. It goes back and forth big time. So let me start with town hall that she did with Jake Tapper. And Jake Tapper was talking to her about this idea of Medicare for all, and that means no private insurance, and are you really for getting rid of all insurance? So this was that comment from Kamala Harris. Cut one, please.
What is your solution to ensure that people have access to quality health care at an affordable price? And does that solution involve cutting insurance companies as we know them out of the equation?
I believe the solution, and I'm actually feel very strongly about this, is that we need to have Medicare for all.
Right. So the question was, does that mean getting rid of private insurance? From the audience. Yeah, and she wouldn't say that exactly. She just said I'm for Medicare for all. So Jake had to follow up. Well, that means getting rid of private insurance, right? I mean, that's what's in Sanders' plan. Cut 2.
Well, listen, the idea is that everyone gets access to medical care. And you don't have to go through the process of going through an insurance company, having them give you approval, going through the paperwork, all of the delay that may require. Who of us has not had that situation where you got to wait for approval and the doctor says, well, I don't know if your insurance company is going to cover this? Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on.
Okay, there's no other way you can interpret what she just said than she's getting rid of all private insurance, right? Because he said, Bernie Sanders' plan says you'd get rid of all private insurance. Is that what you're talking about? And she goes right to talking about getting rid of the insurance bureaucracy and not having to wait to what the insurance company says. I mean, who hasn't been through that, right? By the way, do you know somebody who's on Medicare? You do realize that there are certain things Medicare will pay for and certain things Medicare won't pay for? You realize that, right? There are certain drugs Medicare won't pay for. There are certain procedures Medicare won't pay for. And there are certain doctors and hospitals that won't even take Medicare. And she makes it sound like, oh, it's just awesome. The other thing is Medicare's broke. We'll get to that in a minute. But so obviously she's saying get rid of all health insurance. Well, then her people come out and tell CNN, oh, no, she wasn't saying that. You guys misinterpreted her. So then Don Lemon has her on and gives her another chance to talk about, are you going to get rid of insurance companies? Because that's what's going to happen here within 4 years. Cut 3, please.
I don't think that's right.
That's what the studies show, that it would phase out
Which
private
bill
insurance.
I'm actually supporting
the bill that you co-sponsored.
Medicare for all?
Yes, we're co-sponsored with Bernie Sanders. Medicare for all would effectively eliminate private insurance. It would essentially phase out private insurance companies
as the main source, but there would still be supplemental. There'd still be access to supplemental insurance.
That's actually not what Bernie Sanders said. We got more on this and what would happen to the hospitals in just a second. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad Benson.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And my name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. By the way, if you want to know more about me, you can go online, GregoryBKnapp.com. Gregory B as in boy, KNAPP.com. And I've got a new podcast out, actually, not political at all. It's called Find Your Purpose, Live Your Find Your Purpose, Live Your Passion. Just go to Apple Podcasts, iTunes, put in my name, and you'll find it. Appreciate that. So we're talking about getting rid of private insurance because Kamala Harris says, yes, of course. I mean, Medicare for all, you got to get rid of private insurance. I mean, it's just time to move past it, just like Bernie Sanders has said, like Elizabeth Warren has said. But then she said, well, no, I didn't really mean that. And then Don Lemon said, well, it's going to phase out private insurance in 4 years. That's what the study shows. Oh, no, there'd still be an option for something else. And so then she gets on with Jake Tapper again because of the fallout of her saying she was going to eliminate private insurance, which means, 100 million Americans who like their current private insurance would lose it. And so she's trying to, quote, clarify. Here she is, cut 4.
The last time I saw you was the town hall. Mm-hmm. I want to ask you about something you said that night. You said on stage with me in January that when it comes to private insurance, quote, let's eliminate all of that, let's move on.
Yes.
Now, you later said we don't need to get rid of all private insurance. So,
but let's clear that.
Which is it exactly?
We were together.
Yes.
And you'll remember and roll the tape, please.
Yeah, roll the tape.
That.
Well, you support the Bernie Sanders bill, which essentially gets rid of insurance.
I support Medicare for all, but I really do need to clear up what happened on that stage.
Okay.
It was in the context of saying, let's get rid of all the bureaucracy. Let's get all of the ways.
Oh, not the insurance companies.
No, that's not what I meant. I know it was interpreted that way. If you watch the tape, I think you'll see that there are obviously many interpretations of what I said. What I meant is let's get rid of the bureaucracy. As it relates
to Medicare,
gets
rid of insurance.
But no. It does not get rid of insurance. It does not get rid of insurance. And listen, and let me just tell you where I am. Let's tell you where I am.
All right.
I support Medicare for all.
And that plan did get rid of insurance. She said, roll the tape. All right, let's roll the tape. Let's go back to cut 2, because this is when Jake Tapper asked her the first time, so you're for Medicare for all like Bernie Sanders' bill that gets rid of private insurance. And this was her answer to that question, cut 2.
Well, listen, the idea is that everyone gets access to medical care. And you don't have to go through the process of going through an insurance company, having them give you approval, going through the paperwork, all of the delay that may require. Who of us has not had that situation where you got to wait for approval and the doctor says, well, I don't know if your insurance company is going to cover this? Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on.
Okay, let's eliminate all that. Let's move on. Oh, I meant the bureaucracy. No, you didn't. You were specifically asked about getting rid of private insurance because that's what's in Bernie Sanders' bill, and then you gave examples of why you would do that, and now you're trying to act like you didn't say what you said. And she's gone back and forth and back and forth. So she tries again with another town hall. Here's Kamala Harris, cut 5.
My preference is Medicare for all, but
mandatory Medicare for everyone.
For everyone, but I am also supporting.
So that does mean giving up their current private
there.
health care plans.
No, but they would be entitled to receive and have basically supplemental insurance. But under Medicare for all, and my vision for Medicare for all, we would expand the coverage of Medicare so it would include dental, it would include vision for our seniors, it would include the hearing aids, which are so expensive.
Okay, that makes no sense. Because it says, okay, so mandatory Medicare for all, yes. So that would get rid of private insurance? No, because there would be still ways where you could have supplemental private insurance. But then she says, but you wouldn't need supplemental insurance because I'm going to make Medicare expanded to the things that right now you use for supplemental insurance. Listen, I used to help people get Medicare. And I would help them get their Medicare Advantage plan. See, Medicare A is the hospital. Medicare B is the doctor. Medicare C is the extra stuff you can get in Medicare Advantage plans, because Medicare doesn't cover, as she mentioned, things like certain parts of your dental, vision, hearing. There's a lot of things, a certain number of days in the hospitals and mental hospitals. A lot of that stuff is not covered by Medicare. You buy supplements for that. You can either have a Medicare supplement, which costs more money, but you know exactly what you're going to pay every month, or you can have a Medicare Advantage plan, which is a little less expensive but doesn't cover quite as much stuff. But it still does give you extras, and it does help you with the hospital, and it does help you with your prescription drugs and other things. But so if you're going to have all that, then why would you need private insurance? You can't say it both. She's trying to have both ways, and she's lying to you again, because it will be the end of private insurance if they're what they're talking about doing. The Bernie Sanders plan, Elizabeth Warren plan, it would. It would. And they're lying to you again. And she knows this, which is why she has to keep floundering around, because she knows that it could kill her campaign, because there was one guy willing to speak the truth last week about this on the Democratic side. Representative John Delaney, Democrat, Maryland. He's the one that came out and said this when they were talking about Medicare for all and no private insurance. Listen to what he said. If you go to any hospital in this country and ask them one question, how would it have been for you last year if every one of your bills were paid at the Medicare rate? Every single hospital administrator said they would close. To some extent, we are basically supporting a bill that would have every hospital close. And they were all like, oh, no, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. Who would say that? And I'm sure all the fact checkers said he's not telling the truth. But if you actually look at the details of this, he's closer to the truth than the Democrats are. Washington Free Beacon did a little piece on this, looking at some of the numbers. See, again, like I said, I used to work in this field, and there are doctors who will not take Medicaid at all because they're losing money on their patients. And there are certain doctors that don't want to take any new Medicare patients because in many procedures they're losing money. There are hospitals that will not take Medicare. And there are hospitals that will only take Medicare if you have a Medicare with a supplement, because they're losing money. Well, healthcare shouldn't be about profit anyway. That's a really nice sentiment, I guess, except if you're not making profit and you're actually losing money, guess what happens? You close. Because the doctors want to get paid. The nurses want to get paid. The electric company wants to get paid. The person you rent the land from or pay to buy the land wants to get paid. Everybody needs to get paid. It shouldn't be about profit. Well, you know what? Profit helps you make some pretty good stuff. The reason we keep making more drugs than any other country on the planet. The reason we keep coming up with new surgical procedures and surgical equipment and ways to save people's lives is because there's a profit motive. It costs $1 billion to bring a new drug to market. And when they don't work, you've wasted an awful lot of money. When they do, you better make some money back to make the next drug. We should have price controls on that. Right, knock yourself out, but you're not going to get the new drugs anymore. Now, we'll never know how many life-saving drugs we didn't get because we're not putting the money into that anymore because people actually want a return on their money. Well, we'll just do it with the government. Really? That's why we got all those great drugs coming out of Cuba every year, right? Or North Korea or Venezuela. Because they're just, that's the way you do it. Yeah, that'll work great. So what they're showing is, listen, if you are a hospital and you have a Medicare patient, you're getting compensated by Medicare about 88 cents on the dollar on average. 88 cents on the dollar. So it costs you $1, you're getting 88 cents. You're losing money on average with your Medicare patients. On your private insurance patients, you're getting $1.45 for every dollar. In other words, it costs $1 to treat them, you're getting $1.45 from the private insurance company. You're making money on them. So if you have private insurance, you are subsidizing all the people on Medicare, not just with your taxes, but also with your private insurance payments. You understand how this works? So if every American was off private insurance and onto Medicare, then these hospitals would be losing money. It's true. How long could they do that? Research from the Office of the Medicare Actuary. Using current payment rates, they estimate 4 in 5 hospitals will have negative margins on Medicare payments by 2027. So if everyone becomes a Medicare patient, it is reasonable to predict something like 80% of these hospitals would be losing money. But hey, I'm sure it'll all work out. I mean, because, we'll increase the amount of Medicare reimbursement to the hospitals so that they can make some money or at least break even. The problem is the studies have been done looking at the current reimbursement rates, and at the current reimbursement rates, you're talking about an extra $32.6 trillion over 10 years to pay for this stuff. You increase those rates even more, we haven't even started to estimate how much that's going to cost. But hey, don't worry. We'll just tax the rich to do it. I mean, there's plenty of money. Plenty of money. I don't even know what you're worried about. Oh, not a problem at all. What do you think? 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD, and you are in. Have you seen what happened in Portland over the weekend? This is something that's been just slowly bubbling up for years. And then once Trump got elected, it got even bigger. Because the far left has literally lost their minds. There are people on the far left that have lost their minds over Trump. And I mean that literally, because there are people who have gone to mental health counseling because President Trump got elected. They're admitting they've lost their minds. And so now we've got people in this so-called Antifa movement. They're the real fascists, by the way. And they're out there wearing their black masks and their black clothes, and they're vandalizing property, and they're beating people up because they disagree with them. And what they've done is they've said, well, wait a second. Oh, we're not just beating anybody up who disagrees with us. We're beating up fascists. Because remember, in World War II, we killed fascists. So if we killed fascists in World War II, then obviously it's okay to beat them up now. And I guess some of them actually believe that. Okay, first of all, they get to choose who they think is a fascist. And for them, anyone who disagrees with them is a fascist. You think that you should have lower taxes? Fascist. You think we should actually enforce our laws on immigration? Fascist. You think, you just go right down the line of anything they disagree with, and you're a fascist. And so therefore, since you're a fascist, they have the right to beat you up. I'm not kidding. This is really their thought process. Of course, it never gets through their mind that the real fascists that we fought in World War II were trying to take over the world and killing people. And these people are simply people who disagree with them politically. And even, when you try and explain it to them, they don't want to listen. It's a mob. And unfortunately, in some of these liberal cities that we've seen them, most notably Portland, it appears the mayor has told his police to stand down. So what we have is a mob of people, and anybody who disagrees with them is getting beaten up. And it's not just there. It's even what's happening with our media. There's a piece in the New York Times over the weekend basically saying we should dox all of our Border Patrol agents who are working hard down at the border to try to help the people who are coming in and claiming asylum and get them a bed and get them food and get them medical help when they need it at these detention facilities. We should dox them. But not really dox them, but dox them. Huh? I'll explain that in a minute. And then we have one of the journalists who is more conservative getting attacked in Portland over the weekend. And wait till you hear how some of the media are responding to that. We're going to get to all that in just a second. 844-DIG-CHAD if you want to be a part of the program. 844-DIG-CHAD. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad on The Chad Benson Show.
Boys, give me a bowl of chili with plenty of peppers.
One Mexican heartburn. Why don't you mugs grow up?
The Chad Benson Show, where independent, a la carte thinkers have a seat at the table and a voice in the dialogue.
I'll have what she's having.
This is Chad Benson.
And my name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on The Chad Benson Show. 844-DIG-CHAD to get you in. We're talking about what's going on. Talk about the hypocrisy on the far left. When President Trump says there's fake news and these guys are the enemy of the people, it's like, this is the end of the First Amendment. The president's trying to destroy the press. But he's not investigating the press. He's not shutting any press down. Hasn't stopped a single website or TV station or anything. But on the left, there are people who are beating up reporters. And there are people who are trying to shut people up by doxing them. Jim Acosta goes to a Trump rally and people heckle him verbally. And he says, I was lucky to get out of there with my life. It was very scary. This is what Trump is doing in Trump's America. And people just heckling him, going, fake news, fake news. But over on the Antifa rallies and the far left people, they're actually beating people up. And the Democratic mayors apparently are telling their police to do nothing about it. Byron York has a great piece today. He talks about the toxicity of the resistance to Trump and how it keeps growing and how we've now got respected newspapers publishing rationalizations for denying Trump supporters public accommodations. That would be the lady who ran the Red Hen restaurant, and talking about the waitress that spit on Donald Trump Jr. Well, what do you expect? You're Donald Trump's kid. I mean, what do you expect if you support anything Donald Trump does? I mean, really? I mean, you're lucky that's all you got. Doxing career federal employees. We'll get you that one in a second. And then the journalist who was attacked over the weekend from the Antifa group. And they continue to get more and more violent. So you've got Stephanie Wilkinson, the owner of the Red Hen, the one that, remember, Sanders' family got protested at, and she told her to leave. And in her article, she now says, well, in the age of Trump, new rules apply. Yes. Talking about the waitress recently spitting on Eric Trump. I'm sorry, I thought it was Donald Trump Jr. I apologize. Well, new rules apply now in public accommodations. So, quote, if you're directly complicit in spreading hate or perpetuating suffering, maybe you should consider dining at home. Of course, you can feel the hate dripping off of her op-ed. These people that claim that love triumphs all, love is better than hate, they hate Trump with such a passion that it's eating them up inside. We need to be tolerant of all, and they're intolerant about anyone who disagrees with them, who would vote for Trump. They can't imagine there's any possible reason you could vote for Trump other than you're some kind of racist, xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic person. Couldn't be that you actually think Hillary's ideas were worse? No, that couldn't be it. And so they hate you. They hate you. They don't know you at all, but they hate you. Trump bumper sticker on your car, they hate you. But remember, they're the ones who are loving and tolerant. So they think you deserve to be spit upon when you go to a restaurant. They don't think you should even eat out. Wilkinson said, no one in the industry condones the physical assault of a patron. Oh, no, perish the thought. But then declared that Americans should understand that a frustrated person, like a restaurant employee, will lash out at the representatives of an administration that has made its name trashing norms and breaking backs. Really? What backs have they broken? What are you talking about? Well, look what's going on at the border. Exactly what Obama did. What do you mean? Same exact facilities President Obama used. Really, now we're at the same exact policy Obama had. We're doing catch and release as soon as and quickly as we can process these people. It's the Obama process. If you're an unsavory individual, Wilkinson said, we have no legal or moral obligation to do business with you. See? Better to stay home than risk the spittle. See, and they get to decide if you're unsavory, and then they get to decide to spit on you. Then there's the New York Times piece by Kate Cronin-Furman, assistant professor, Human Rights, University College London, saying that, we should really go after these people who work on the border because basically they're running the same kind of camps they had in Cambodia and Rwanda. And we should, let everybody in their neighborhood know that they live there to try and shame them. But we're not saying dox them. And then there was the reporter attacked by Antifa in Portland. We'll get to that next. My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad Benson. This is The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And my name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. Hey, how you doing? It's easy to be a part of the show. 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD, online, thechadshow.com, and Twitter is at Chad Benson Show. Hey, if you want to know more about me, GregoryBKnapp.com, Gregory B as in boy, KNAPP.com. I also have a new podcast that just launched. Love for you to check it out in Apple Podcasts. Just type in my name, Gregory Knapp, and it'll pop up. It's not political. It's how to find your purpose and live your passion. All right, so we were talking about what's going on with the far lefties, the media, the celebrities, but I repeat myself, all having this double standard. That, hey, you can't say anything bad about the press, obviously. And, Trump is just trying to destroy free press in this country. But on the far left, it's okay to beat up a reporter if he disagrees with you at an Antifa protest. And it's okay to not serve somebody who is a Trump supporter at a restaurant because, after all, they're unsavory. And they might even get spit upon. And, hey, you just got to understand people are frustrated. And if somebody is working in the Trump administration, even a Border Patrol agent, well, we need to start letting people in their community know who they are and what church they go to and where they hang out so we can shame them into doing the right thing. Now, we're not talking about doxing anybody. But, yeah, we are. That's what's going on. And Byron York pointing it all out, we went through quite a bit of it. One was the lady who runs the Red Hen restaurant. She was writing in the Washington Post, hey, maybe you should just dine at home. I mean, you might get a little spittle on you because you're unsavory. And a professor, assistant professor, Human Rights, University College London, writing in the New York Times, basically saying that these detention facilities that Obama started at the border are like the Holocaust and the genocides in Cambodia and Rwanda. What? Yeah, just like it. And, if you're an opponent of this administration, you should publicly identify and shame these Customs and Border Patrol people because they're horrible. Aren't they the ones actually trying to care for these migrant children? Well, yeah, but they're doing a horrible job. I mean, they're pretty much just giving them lice, and they're taking away their showers and food. What are you talking about? Such workers should be dismayed at being publicly shamed because they are sensitive to social pressure, she wrote. This is not an argument for doxing, she said. It's about exposure of their participation in atrocities to audiences whose opinion they care about. The knowledge, for instance, that when you go to church on Sunday, your entire congregation will have seen you on TV ripping a child out of her father's arms is a serious social cost to bear. The desire to avoid this kind of social shame may be enough to persuade some agents to quit and may hinder the recruitment of replacements. So think about that for a second. So there'll be nobody down there to help these people. I mean, these agents are actually helping these people. They're helping them from the desert to the detention facility where they actually get food and water and clothes and a place to stay. And if they're sick, a doctor or a nurse. This is as stupid as when AOC was excited that the people who were helping provide the beds were walking out of work. Where do you think these kids are going to sleep if you can't get them to bed? Well, what they want to do is just let them straight into the country. No processing at all, and just let them straight in. Open borders. But they say, no, it's not open borders. That's a right-wing talking point. Nobody really wants open borders. Well, then what's your solution? What are you talking about? Of course you do. But, of course, that's not an argument for doxing. Oh, no. Of course not. Of course not. Of course it is. And then there's Antifa. And Antifa went after a reporter because he disagrees with him. Andy, no. This guy is half Vietnamese and he's gay. And somehow he's the alt-right, according to these people. No, this happens to be a guy who wants to report the truth about Antifa. And he's reporting that they are violent. And so he was filming them be violent, and they didn't like it. And he has also written for some conservative outlets, and so they hate him. And so they think, since he disagrees with them, they have the right to beat him up. And so they're trying this whole milkshake thing. Have you heard about the milkshake thing? It started over in Great Britain, where some of the people who were for Brexit were, quote, milkshaked by liberals. So what they would do is they see the politician in public or speaking in public, and they take a milkshake and they throw it at him. So he has milkshake all over him. And ha, we got you. And it's not really assault. It's only a milkshake, and you deserve it because you're an unsavory character. Of course, that is assault. And if it was done to a liberal, they would want this person under the jail. But since it's done to a conservative, it's okay, because after all, they're fascists and we used to kill fascists. That's the thought process. And of course, then you go beyond, what if it's not just a milkshake? What if it looks like a milkshake and it, has quick-drying cement mixed in? Because that's what they're saying happened in Portland. That Antifa people had milkshakes that they mixed in quick-dry cement, which is very bad for you, by the way. And of course, as it's drying, it becomes hard and heavy and a rock. And they're throwing this at Andy No, and they punched him in the head, and he had to go to the hospital, and there was bleeding on his brain, and he had to stay overnight. But hey, it's his fault, because he shouldn't have been in there with the Antifa people actually recording what they were doing. It's his fault because he actually disagrees with them and is trying to cover them. But now remember, if Jim Acosta from CNN goes into a Trump event and people heckle him verbally, well, then they're trying to destroy the First Amendment of the United States of America and go after the press. You see how this works? Toby Young, writing for The Spectator on Andy No, says a freelance journalist with bylines in Spectator, USA, and the National Review, Andy was covering an Antifa protest in his hometown of Portland when he was set upon by a group of about 20 masked thugs. And the video's up. So the reason Andy was targeted is because the outlets he writes for, including Quillette, where we both work as editors, frequently challenge hard left dogma. This is Toby Young writing. Andy's best known for the investigative work he has done exposing hate crimes hoaxes. By the way, did you see the piece by Jason Riley last week in the Wall Street Journal? That the recent studies show that about 1 in 3 hate crimes reported in America right now is a hoax? 1 in 3. Wow. Such as the Jussie Smollett incident. But he's also filmed criminal acts by Antifa activists in Portland, including violent assaults, and posted them on Twitter. So the group hates him. Yeah, he's pointing out these guys are breaking the law, and the police are doing nothing about it. And it's because in these Democratic cities, the Democratic mayors have ordered the police, let it slide. Isn't that nice? So far, Andy No's already been doxxed numerous times. Activists are publicizing his home address on social media and his family. So Andy got cuts, bruises, torn earlobe, thousands of dollars worth of his camera equipment smashed or stolen, taken to the local hospital, bleeding on the brain. But hey, he disagrees with Antifa, so he deserves what he gets, right? Oh, that's what some of these liberal journalists are actually tweeting out. Case in point, Aheli Picasso. Andy Ngo is someone who antagonizes those he knows will react in a disproportionate way, and this exact outcome was inevitable. Everyone knew it. Isn't that nice? Those who assaulted him, however, are the ones at fault here. Isn't that nice that they added that in? I mean, it was his fault, but if, when bleep like this is used to paint an entire movement or side as wholly violent, be sure to pat the aggressors here on the back, Picasso said in a follow-up tweet. And let's see, then there's Nathan Bernard, co-founder of Bernard Media. After relentlessly baiting and harassing Antifa, far-right provocateur Andy Ngo finally got his wish of being milkshaked. Far-right simpletons like Tim Pool will milk this victim story, puts that in quotes, for the next week at least. Really, so when, people from the press complain about how awful it is to work with Trump and they're basically, risking their lives working, that's different than when you're actually getting attacked. Really? Yeah, that's what they're saying. And is going back to Toby Young here and Spectator writing about this, he says, we have people in the media supporting this and really pushing it. For months, critics of milkshake throwing, told you all about that, have warned it will lead to escalation. But left-wing journalists like David Aaronovitch have defended the practice. Just this month, comedian and Women's Equality Party supporter Joe Brand joked about the protesters who'd thrown milkshakes at the Brexit Party candidates in the European election. Quote, "Why bother with a milkshake when you could get some battery acid?" That's what she said on the BBC. Why bother with a milkshake when you could get some battery acid? The BBC came to her defense when people complained about that, by the way. Chris Cuomo championed Antifa on CNN, remember? Beating up, as Toby writes here, beating up a journalist because he or she criticizes your political ideology is what the Nazi Party did in Germany in the 1930s. Andy is a gay person of color, and if a group of right-wing thugs assaulted a left-wing journalist who ticked the same demographic boxes, the mainstream media would be clamoring for justice, and every Democratic presidential contender would raise the incident in the forthcoming debates. Absolutely right. And this is an assault on freedom. It's an assault on free speech. It's an assault on freedom of the press. And it's super scary because what we're saying is if there's a big enough mob and enough people agree with that mob, then we're going to let them break the law and beat people up. And that will escalate. They're already beating people up. They're already vandalizing and causing tens of thousands of dollars in property damage. How long before somebody gets killed? The very things the far left warned you about the Tea Party that never happened is what's happening with Antifa, and they don't care. So Ted Cruz says, hey, maybe something should be done about this. I'll get you what Ted Cruz said about it in just a minute. Then we'll get into what's going on with the illegal immigration situation and what the Democrats are saying about open borders. You got to hear this audio we've got for you. Lots to do. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad Benson. This is The Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show, where the sensible center hangs out. Hey, you! That doesn't mean you can put your feet up on the table.
You're despicable. This is Chad Benson.
Hey, my name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on The Chad Benson Show. You can jump in at thechadshow.com. You can also dial us up, 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD, and you're in. So I was talking about the Antifa thugs beating up Andy Ngo. Because they didn't like him. Because he has doxed them, but not in the way that the left dox. On the left, they'll put up your residence, your address, your phone number, everything. All that Andy Ngo was doing was posting video of them breaking the law. You know, vandalizing property, beating people up. The kind of stuff the left is winking and nodding at now if you're beating up the right people. You know, it's okay to spit on Eric Trump. It's okay to beat up Andy No at the Antifa event because they disagree with you. They're unsavory characters. They might even be Trump supporters. They're the deplorables. So it's okay. And there are Democratic mayors that seem to be telling the police, hey, listen, you got to let some of that stuff go. I mean, it's understandable when some of these people get frustrated and want to beat up some of these horrible people. So the cops aren't doing anything about it in places like Portland. So Ted Cruz says it's time for some legal action against the Portland mayor, Ted Wheeler, Democrat, over his apparent failure to police the city. Because reportedly, the Democrat, Wheeler, has told Portland law enforcement to employ what they're calling a hands-off policy during these protests, even when they turn violent. So here's what Cruz said on Twitter. To federal law enforcement, investigate and bring legal action against a mayor who has, for political reasons, ordered his police officers to let citizens be attacked by domestic terrorists. Yes, it's about time. And so Richard Grinnell, the U.S. ambassador to Germany, said he has requested the Department of Justice to investigate the incident. But, you know, it's getting bigger and bigger where people act like it's just normal. Carlos Maza is a journalist at Vox, and he tweeted this out not long ago. Milkshake them all. Humiliate them at every turn. Make them dread public organizing. He's talking about anybody, basically, who disagrees with the far left. That's what Antifa's been doing, and they're getting away with it. Listen, I don't care whether you are pro-Trump, pro-Kamala Harris, pro-Bernie Sanders, pro-Elizabeth Warren, pro-whoever, and I don't care who you're anti-against. We should be able to rally and unify as Americans around the idea of the rule of law, that you have the right to disagree, even if we hate what you say. But we can't unify around that anymore because people on the left think they have the right to describe what they think is hate speech, and then whatever they describe as hate speech is something you can't say anymore. And if you say it, then they have the right to beat you up because, after all, we killed Nazis in World War II. What? And Democrat mayors are now thinking they have the right to tell the cops, only enforce the law when we tell you to, and only against the people we tell you to. And somehow that's tolerance, that's love, that's peace, and that's what America's about. Those are our core values, as the left will tell you. Is anybody paying attention? Because this is going to destroy us. We cannot have one set of laws for one side and one set of laws for the other side. And if we get away from the Bill of Rights that our forefathers put before us that were so brilliant in saying what the government can't do to you, and if we allow the government to start taking away these rights one by one, you can't say that. What do you mean I can't say that? It's freedom of speech. Well, that's hate speech. Wait, you get to decide what hate speech is? Yes, because we're in charge. The whole point of the First Amendment is that you're allowed to say things that other people find offensive. Otherwise, you wouldn't need the First Amendment, you moron. Greg, quit paying. See, that's why you're intolerant. You're calling people morons. I mean, listen, sometimes you are. If you don't understand something simple like that, what else am I supposed to call you? Don't call him anything. Just be nice. Yes, we'll try. Oh, man, did you see what happened to Jeff Bezos? Oh, you got to see that. This is amazing. I'll get you the story on Jeff Bezos. And then what the Democrats are saying about illegal aliens is that open borders time. We'll hit all that. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad Benson, 844-DIG-CHAD on The Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And my name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. You can jump in at 844-DIG-CHAD. 844-DIG-CHAD. Learn more about me, GregoryBKnapp.com. That's Gregory B as in boy, Knapp.com. And my new podcast just launched, Find Your Purpose, Live Your Passion. It's not political at all. Just go to Apple Podcasts, type in my name, and it'll pop right up. Love for you to give that a listen. Jeff Bezos back in the news. Okay, people tend to love to hate Jeff Bezos because he got too big. I mean, in America, we like it when you get big. We like it when you succeed. We like to see it happen. But then you get too big and we want to watch you fall, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. And Jeff Bezos has gotten big, man. He's gotten monster big. And he's getting divorced. He's about to make his ex-wife the world's fourth richest woman. Oh, man. It's out of The Guardian. Says this week a judge is going to sign off on the paperwork and make it official. And she will get 4% of Amazon shares given to her as part of the divorce settlement. What do you mean given? She earned those, man. She had to live with that guy for a long time. All right, whatever you want to call it, that's fine. So 4% of Amazon. Guess how much she's going to be worth now in terms of money? You ready? $38 billion with a B. $38 billion. Whew. Now, I don't care how rich you are, that hurts. I'm just saying, man, I don't care how rich you are. When you find out that your ex-wife is getting $38 billion from you, that's got to hurt a little. Greg, it doesn't matter, man. He's still worth $122 billion. You're right. I mean, hey, listen. I'm certainly not crying for Bezos. He's got plenty of money. Everything's going to be all right. He's not losing a couple meals. But that's just pretty amazing. 4% of Amazon is worth $38 billion, and now Mackenzie Bezos will get her title as world's fourth richest woman and not have to put up with Jeff Bezos anymore. So she'll be moving on. Let the competition to be Mr. Mackenzie Bezos begin. How come you don't see that as much with the men trying to do that as you see it the other way? Oh, you sexist little pig, you. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board. 844-DIG-CHAD, and you are in. The Democratic candidates are all in on illegal immigration. I mean, if you watched the debates last Wednesday and Thursday, you would think right now that all the illegal aliens can vote, because that's who they seem to be going after. Some of them do. All right, some of them do. Not as many as other people think, but there have been some cases where they found some illegal aliens voting, and when you try to prosecute that, you're a horrible, awful, evil person. So we've gotten to the point now where the Democrats on stage were all raising their hand to give illegal aliens free health care, and then they were, most of them, raising their hands saying they want to decriminalize the fact that it's a crime to come into our country illegally. They're saying they just need to release everybody who's here, that anybody who's here doesn't commit a crime should be a citizen. I mean, that's open borders. No, it's not open borders. We still expect them to come through and be processed, and we tell them when they have to come back for their asylum hearing. What happens if they don't come to their asylum hearing? Well, we tell them that they're supposed to. But what happens if they don't? Well, there's not much we can really do about that. So open borders. So George Stephanopoulos is out there trying to understand what's going on. And if George Stephanopoulos, Mr. and Mrs. Hillary Clinton's right-hand man, Toady, is out there giving you some, quote, tough questions, then you probably have gone a little bit far left, right? So Stephanopoulos is out there saying, hey, you guys are all saying you're going to give free health care to illegals, and Trump was making fun of it, and the New York Post had a big front-page headline on it that you just gave away the election. Are you giving the Republicans an opening here? And he was asking that of Julian Castro. Cut 6, please.
What I would like every American taxpayer to know is that right now, number one, undocumented immigrants already pay a lot of taxes. Secondly, we already pay for the health care of undocumented immigrants. It's called the emergency room.
Oh, boy.
People show up in the emergency room and they get care as they should. And then third, it is the right thing to do. We're not going to let people living in this country die because they can't see a doctor.
Okay, so many things wrong with this. Let's take them one at a time. Because have you given them an opening? No, not at all. Not at all. I'd like every American to know right now undocumented immigrants already pay a lot of taxes. Illegal aliens pay taxes when they buy things, sales tax. And they pay taxes if they're being paid by an employer who actually reports it. If they're getting cash, they're not paying taxes on that. And many of them are getting paid cash under the table. But guess what? Those are the kind of taxes everybody pays. And we don't all have free health care. By the way, we're supposed to be in this nation. They're not. So I mean, really, listen to what the Democrats are saying. Hey, you know, we are supposed to go by our laws, but come on in. I mean, listen, you're not supposed to be here, but here's some free health care. I mean, you're not supposed to be here, but here's in-state tuition. I mean, you're not supposed to be here. But I mean, on and on and on. Are you kidding? So you're paying taxes. Some are paying some taxes. But they're not paying in as many taxes as the benefits they're getting out. Because their children are getting free education. Many of their children born here in America are getting food stamps. Many are living in HUD housing. And on we go where they're see, this is the other part of it. And they go, we've had a lot of immigration in the past. Why now all of a sudden are you guys worried about? Well, in the past, we didn't have all this welfare. You either got here with somebody who sponsored you and they took care of you, or you took care of yourself, or you went home. We can't take everybody. Listen, I'm a first-generation American. I'm still a big believer in legal immigration. You realize we take almost 1 million a year legally. We can't take another 2 to 3 million illegally. At some point, it's too much. And then he goes, and by the way, we already have health care for illegal aliens. It's called the ER. Yeah. And you know why? Because we're not going to let people just die in the street. We've already covered that, but that's the best we're going to be able to do, because if you start giving away free health care, how many other incentives do you want to have people come? So then Stephanopoulos continues to press and says, hey, look, if you look at everything you guys are talking about doing, which I just went over, isn't that basically open borders? And here's cut 7.
The question is at what cost, though? And when you add up all the proposals you're calling for right now, decriminalization of crossing the border, no deportation, absent other crimes, the offer of health benefits, also a possible path to citizenship. I know you reject the rhetoric about open borders, but isn't that effectively open borders not limiting our immigration in any real way?
Think about that. Everything you just said. Not deporting unless you commit another crime. You know, increasing the number of people that come in for asylum. Not stopping anybody coming in right now. How in the world is that not open borders? And now try to follow what Castro says. Julian Castro, cut 8.
I would challenge you there, George, on a couple of things. Number one, there's no way that we can call that open borders, because we have 654 miles of fencing. We have thousands of personnel at the border. We have planes. We have helicopters, boats, security cameras, guns. That's by no stretch of the imagination open borders.
But if you're just standing there and letting everybody in anyway, and they're actually running up to you saying, please help me, I'm claiming asylum, and you let them all in, then that's open borders with a little bit of window dressing. Are you kidding? No. I mean, we got all that going on. I mean, you know, obviously that's not open borders. And even if it wasn't a crime anymore to come in illegally, it would still be a civil case. Listen to cut 9.
Secondly, there is still a civil court process.
Oh, yes.
There are still people who are being deported. There are people applying for asylum that do not receive, are not granted asylum. So open borders is just a right-wing talking point. It always has been.
Sure. Right. Except that right now, 44% of the people who are ordered to come back to court don't come back. And then the ones who are ordered to be deported just leave, like back into America. And then if you try to round them up, you're accused of trying to break up families. So what are you talking about, Julian Castro? Are you saying that the people then should be deported? No, because you're for no deportation unless they commit another crime. And even if that crime's not major enough, you're still against it. In other words, somebody got a DUI. Oh, no, that's not a big crime. Hey, guess what? A DUI is a crime we can get an American to commit. We got enough of those. Are you kidding? There's no way the majority of Democrats even agree with that. I mean, Democrat voters, not Democrat politicians, but Democrat voters. There's a great piece by Andrew Sullivan, who, by the way, is not a conservative, right? Andrew Sullivan wrote this: the Democratic candidates are in a bubble on immigration. That's right. And he talks about how the fact, we have this crisis on the border, and the Democrats until very recently said it was a manufactured crisis, made up. They won't admit that they were wrong. And now they're not even talking about how to reduce the levels of mass immigration. And they're not even talking about the problem with the asylum law. Get this. Since 2014, there's been a 240% increase in asylum cases. Yet the number of asylum cases from Honduras, Guatemala, and Venezuela has soared. At the same time, the crime rate in those countries has been cut in half. And by the way, they're claiming asylum when the vast majority of them are simply just trying to come to America for the American dream. That's what happened with the father and the daughter that drowned in the Rio Grande. The widow said they wanted a better life. They wanted a better future for their girl. That's not asylum. Our actual law, the service definition of asylum is this, quote, refugee status or asylum may be granted to people who have been persecuted or fear they will be persecuted on account of race, religion, nationality, and or membership in a particular social group or political opinion. Says nothing about economic problems, says nothing about a rough neighborhood, says nothing about gangs in your neighborhood, and yet that's what our courts have allowed it to morph into. The courts now have basically said, if there's crime where you live, or there's violence where you live, you can claim asylum. If you are someone who suffered domestic violence, you can claim asylum, because you can claim you're part of a special group. So wait a second. So we're talking about billions of people around the world who live in more violent areas than America, and billions of people around the world who have been part of domestic violence can all now claim asylum in the United States of America? Then there is no asylum. It's anybody can come, because anybody can claim that. That's crazy. Last month, 144,000 people were detained at the border making an asylum claim. About 1 million Central Americans will have relocated to the U.S. this year. And the majority of the candidates right now on the Democratic side want to remove the grounds for detention at all. Can't detain them at all. So, of course, that's open borders. That's exactly what it is. Only 44% turn up for their hearings. Those who do show up and whose claims fail simply walk out of the court and know they probably won't be deported anyway. In fact, in 2018, we only deported 256,000 people. 57% of those had committed crimes since they arrived in the United States, additional crimes. So an annual removal rate of 2% of the total undocumented population we have now of around 12 million. So for 98% of the illegal aliens in any given year, they have no consequences for crossing our border illegally. Wow. And none of that's really talked about at the debates on the Democratic side. Advantage Trump, says Andrew Sullivan, not a conservative. Got a little bit more from Julian Castro. And wait till you hear what President Obama said about this idea of free health care for illegal aliens. We'll get that one to you as well. My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad Benson. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on the show. 844-DIG-CHAD. This is the Chad Benson Show.
Warning, no snowflake zone. Uninformed opinions are in danger of melting. The Chad Benson Show.
And my name is Greg Knapp in for Chad Benson. So Chris Wallace had the Democratic National Committee chairperson Tom Perez on Sunday, and they were talking about the illegal immigration situation and all the Democrats saying, yeah, free health care for illegal aliens. And Perez said, oh, no, they pay taxes. We've heard this time and time again. But Wallace said, wait a second now. That wasn't the Democrat position when Obamacare was put through. Do you remember when President Obama said this, cut 12?
That our reform efforts would ensure illegal immigrants. This, too, is false.
See? No, it's never. And that's when Joe Wilson said, "You lie." And everybody's like, "Oh, how dare he say that?" And so far it hasn't been true. But now it will be true if the Democrats win and get their way. So Democrats believe illegal aliens should get health care. And Perez tried to say it's buying into the system. Listen, cut 13.
Democrats believe that you should be able to buy into a health insurance system. It's not a handout.
But Barack Obama didn't say that.
We're in a different era. I believe that what we're doing right now is the right thing to do.
Why is it a different era from 2009?
Right. And there was no answer to that. And you're not buying into it. You're paying the same taxes everybody else is paying in sales tax. You're not paying nearly as much as most Americans are because your wages are so low being here illegally. If you're getting paid through that kind of a system at all and not being paid under the table with cash, and your family is using up more welfare, though study after study after study shows that, and so you're not buying into a system, and you're not supposed to even be here. Wow. I mean, it's crazy. Well, you guys just don't have any compassion. That's the thing. Wait a second. I have great compassion for people. Let's get clear on this. If I was living in one of the countries around the world that are as poor as so many of the people are coming here, I'd be trying to do the same thing with my family. How can I get to the United States of America? I won the lottery being born here. I totally get it. And I would want to do everything I could to help my family. But you got to come legally. Because otherwise, how do you control any of this? You look at Japan, China, Australia, so many other countries that severely limit even legal immigration and have no problem stopping people legally. Why? Because they actually want to take care of their country, their national identity, their economy, their citizens. And yet when you say that, somehow that makes you a bad person and you don't care? Look, if we destroy what America is to the point that we don't have the economic engine we do, how are we going to help everybody else? If you're poor and broke, how do you give money to help other people? If you're poor and broke to the point that you don't have a place to live and you don't have food to eat, how can you now help other poor people? You've got to do it at a level that allows people to assimilate into this country, that allows them to get their own jobs so they can take care of themselves, and so that we can continue to donate all around the world to help as many people as we possibly can. And we're not going to do that if we destroy the goose that lays the golden eggs. And isn't our government supposed to take care of American citizens first? Then legal immigrants second? Illegal aliens aren't supposed to be here. The very first thing you do in this country is come illegally, and somehow it's our fault? There's no way a majority of Democrats agree with that. My name's Greg Knapp, and for Chad Benson, hang in.
This is the Chad Benson Show.
And my name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad Benson. Hey, how you doing? You can jump in on the program, 844-DIG-CHAD. 844-DIG-CHAD, also thechadshow.com. More about me, GregoryBKnapp.com. Gregory B as in boy, KNAPP.com. And I just launched a podcast, not political. It's Find Your Purpose, Live Your Passion. Check that out on Apple Podcasts. Just type in my name, Gregory Knapp. It'll pop right up. We've been talking about a lot. How about this? What President Trump did in North Korea over the weekend. What happened with our press secretary in North Korea? She had to body check some North Koreans out of the way to let the American press through. Go, go, go. Medicare for all. Is that really getting rid of private insurance? Kamala Harris is all over the map on it. And then Antifa, they're the real fascists. If you disagree with them, they think they have the right to beat you up. And unfortunately, some Democrat mayors seem to think the same thing. And Portland is a case in point. Ted Cruz out there saying, you know what, we need an investigation into this. We should not have Democrat mayors telling the police hands free when there's a protest and they don't like one side and just let the other side beat them up. That's not what America's all about. So we got all that swirling around. So you can chime in on any of those topics at 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD. So North Korea, here's the thing. I love the fact that Trump is trying something new. What we've been doing for decades has not worked. And what we've been doing for decades is allowing North Korea North Korea to rattle its saber. Tell everybody, hey, listen, we've got nukes. We're a nuclear power. You've got to listen to us and work with us and deal with us. And so we want oil and we want food and we want money, or we're going to really start launching some missiles. And we're going to help other countries go nuclear. And so we say, okay, all right, here's some oil. All right, here's some money. All right, here's some food. And then they cheat on the deal. And it's happened time and time again. All the time. And for some reason, we just kept doing the same thing. And at some point, you got to say, we got to quit acting like doing the same thing is going to generate different results. So Trump says, okay, I'm going to try something different. And so he does. Here's my problem with it. No problem going to the DMZ. No problem even shaking hands across the DMZ to Kim. But do you want to praise the guy as much as Trump has praised him? Remember, this is the regime that killed Eric Wambier. How do you keep getting excited about that? And this is a regime that truly does have torture camps. And how do you keep praising a guy that has everything to do with that? So at some point, you got to say, maybe I need to tone down the rhetoric. But see, for Trump, all diplomacy is personal. And he thinks that maybe if he can just, get through to this guy on a personal level, that he could work out a great deal with him. So here is President Trump at the press conference with Kim. And you tell me if you think this is a little too much from our president. Cut 14, go ahead.
Well, I want to thank you, Chairman. You hear the power of that voice. Nobody's heard that voice before. He doesn't do news conferences, in case you haven't heard. And this was a special moment. And this is, I think, really, as President Moon said, this is a historic moment, the fact that we're meeting. And I want to thank Chairman Kim for something else. When I put out the social media notification, if he didn't show up, the press was going to make me look very bad. So you made us both look good, and I appreciate it. But we've developed a great relationship. I really think that if you go back 2.5 years and you look at what was going on prior to my becoming president, it was a very, very bad situation, a very dangerous situation for South Korea, for North Korea, for the world. And I think the relationship that we've developed has meant so much to so many people. And it's just an honor to be with you, and it was an honor that you asked me to step over that line, and I was proud to step over the line. I thought you might do that. I wasn't sure, but I was ready to do it, and I want to thank you. It's been great. It's been great. Very historic. They were just saying, one of the folks from the media was saying this could be a very historic moment, and I guess that's what it is. But I enjoy being with you, and thank you very much.
Okay, and that's what I got the problem with. I think I said Eric Warmbier, and I apologize, Otto Warmbier, one of the many killed by this regime. And so as much as I say I understand what Trump is doing, and I get that he's being different, and I get that he wants to try a new tack, how can you say things like, it was just an honor to be with you? It was an honor that you asked me to step over that line. I enjoy being with you, right? He thanks him numerous times, talks about their great relationship. I want to thank you. It's been great, very historic. It's an honor. Listen to the power of this guy's voice. You don't hear him very much. You know why? Because most of the time, we don't want to give him any kind of a bully pulpit to talk, because this is a guy in charge of a murderous regime. So as much as I get what Trump's trying to do, are you telling me that sits well with you, to have President Trump say that kind of stuff? I got a problem with it. I got a big problem with it. And what I'm worried about is Trump is in a situation now where he's coming to the end of his first term, and he wants a big win, and maybe he's going to start saying to North Korea, hey, we'll ease off the sanctions a little bit if you just promise to do some nice stuff. Up until now, he hasn't. I hope he won't. But what he wants, what Kim wants, is before he even does anything, like, as the Wall Street Journal points out, disclose his research labs, test facilities, and nuclear stockpiles, he wants the sanctions eased. But until Kim does something like, let us see what's really going on, trust but verify, then we shouldn't give him squat because he's just going to cheat on it again. It's the same thing with Iran. Iran's been cheating on this nuclear deal from day one that they had with Obama and the Europeans, and now they've just proved it. Today we've got more nuclear enriched uranium than we said we would from this deal because, America pulled out of it, so we just went ahead and did it anyway. And the only way we're going to stop continuing to enrich this uranium is if Europe starts easing the sanctions on us. And all the Democrats, see, Trump's made it more dangerous. Wait a second. You really think that the Iranians were not cheating on this deal from day one with Obama? Because remember, the Obama deal said we couldn't look at their military facilities. So all they had to do was make it all in there. I mean, let's play in the real world for just a minute, okay? So I hope Trump's going to stick with his idea that we're not going to give the North Koreans anything until they give us something. But I'm not happy with him saying it was an honor. Yes, it was an honor. And it's been great. An honor to be with you. No, sorry. Too much flattery there for a guy in charge of this murderous regime. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD. And then there was the White House Press Secretary Stephanie Grisham pushing aside the North Korean guys, opening up a hole, telling the press, go, go, go. Even some on the far left have given her some praise today and standing up for the freedom of the press in Kim's North Korea. So good for her, and we'll see how long that honeymoon with the press corps lasts. My prediction is not very long. Jimmy Carter back in the news. Yeah, you don't hear that very often, do you? Well, Jimmy Carter was at an event Friday at the Carter Center. Historian John Meacham was asking the questions. And Meacham asked this: Russia has been proven by our intelligence community to have interfered with one of our human rights, which is the right of free and fair elections. Now, they've been trying to do this for decades, and they've, put stuff into our system for decades. But did they change any votes? Zero evidence of that whatsoever. Even the Obama administration said there's zero evidence that any vote was changed. Did they rig any vote counting? Absolutely zero evidence of that, even according to the Obama administration. And yet, we have Democrats who will tell you they think it's happened. And one of those Democrats appears to be Jimmy Carter. Listen to this. So what is your reaction? How should we deal with that? Listen to Jimmy Carter, cut 15.
There's no doubt that the Russians did interfere in the election. And I think the interference, although not yet quantified, if fully investigated, would show that Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered on his behalf.
What? Wait, has he been paying attention at all? First of all, it wasn't all 16 intelligence agencies. It was 3 of them. That was not told true to you as well. But I think the interference, although not yet quantified, when fully investigated, would show it's from the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered on his behalf. There is zero evidence of that. Now, the press went all nutso on Trump, rightly so, when he said a couple million illegal aliens could have voted, and there's no evidence that a couple million illegal aliens voted. There is evidence that some illegal aliens voted. But the press isn't going to push back on this? Just like they didn't push back on so many Democrats claiming they won, like the governor of Georgia. Okay. But all you have to do is look at some of the more recent polls. Opinions about U.S.-Russian relations by political party. This is a poll that Alapundit was quoting in Hot Air. Said Russian involvement in the 2016 U.S. election interfered, unchanged outcome. Interfered and changed the outcome. 78% of Democrats think that's what happened. Interfered did not change the outcome. Only 12% of Democrats agree with that. So Jimmy Carter's joining these Democrats, living in this fantasy world that somehow the Russians changed the outcome of this election. They don't want to admit that Hillary was a horrible candidate. They don't want to admit that half the country said, you know what? I'd rather have Trump than Hillary. They don't want to admit that. So they're still living this lie that somehow the Russians changed the election. So Meacham asks Carter, you say you believe President Trump is an illegitimate president? Cut 16.
So do you believe President Trump is an illegitimate president?
Based on what I just said, which I can't retract.
Yes, I just told every American that our entire electoral system was destroyed by the Russians, and we have a president who didn't really win, and a foreign entity who is our enemy put him in place. Let's laugh about it. Thanks, Jimmy. I'll tell you what President Trump said to him in just a second. 844-DIG-CHAD, get you on board. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad Benson on The Chad Benson Show.
Plea deal this.
Mueller, arrest me.
Chad will trade you 2 perjury charges for 1 collusion and throw in a reduced charge of obstruction for free.
Yeah, I'd do that.
For just listening to The Chad Benson Show.
And my name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on The Chad Benson Show. You can jump in as well at 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD. On Twitter, it's at Chad Benson Show. Lots of ways to be a part of the broadcast. So Jimmy Carter's out there trying to continue this myth that somehow President Trump didn't really win. No. The Russians did it. Now, remember, of course, when Trump was running against Hillary and he mentioned, hey, will you accept the results of this election? Well, I don't know. It depends on how it went, whether it was really legitimate or not. And people went nuts, including, of course, the Democrat Party. And now you've got former Democrat presidents saying the Russians did it. Somehow the Russians got in and rigged the election. Can't quantify it yet, but yes. Listen to Jimmy Carter one more time, cut 15.
There's no doubt that the Russians did interfere in the election, and I think the interference, although not yet quantified, if fully investigated, would show that Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered on his behalf.
That is so irresponsible. And so wrong, and just a blatant lie based on every study done on this by the Obama administration and on. And it hurts our nation to divide us like that, to try to make people think that the Russians put Trump into office. It's just a blatant lie. And he's doing it. So Trump responds. Trump came out and said, look, about Jimmy Carter, look, he was a very nice man. He was a terrible president. He's a Democrat, and it's a typical talking point. He's loyal to the Democrats. Yeah, 78% of Democrats agree with Carter that the Russians interfered and changed the election. There's zero evidence of that. But that's okay because it makes him feel better. So back to Trump. Trump on Carter. He's been badly trashed. He's like the forgotten president. And I understand why they say that. He was not a good president. Everybody now understands that I won, not because of Russia, not because of anyone but myself. I went out and campaigned better, smarter, harder than Hillary Clinton. Yes, Hillary Clinton is a horrible candidate. Horrible candidate. That's why she lost, not because of Russia. And these people, I actually hope they continue to think that, because it will lead them to lose again, because they still don't understand why Hillary lost. They still don't understand why people are voting for Trump. And they're still believing these polls that say any Democrat can beat Trump, because they don't understand what's going on. They don't understand that the left yelling shut up to everyone who disagrees with them is not an argument. Yelling shut up, you're a racist, you're a xenophobe, you're a homophobe, you're a transgender phobe, you're whatever, instead of actually talking about the arguments, is not an argument. And people are tired of it. And people who know they're not racist, and they're not xenophobic, and they're not homophobic, and they're not transphobic, people who know that they're just regular people wanting to live their lives and be left alone, and they're being called all these names, are tired of it. And so they may not tell the guy who's polling them that they're going to vote for Trump, but they're going to vote for Trump. They know that if they say that, it could cost them. They could be doxxed. They could have social media tear them up and destroy their business. They could lose whatever they've worked all their life for. So they're just going to keep quiet. But they're going to vote for Trump. That's what happened last time. And that's what's going to happen again if the Democrats don't figure it out. So I kind of hope they don't. But what Jimmy Carter said was just totally irresponsible. 100%. Hey, are you ready for designer babies? There's a new study that says we are right there. I'm going to get you the details on that in a second. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD. My name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. And my name is Greg Knapp, in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. More about me, GregoryBKnapp.com. Gregory B as in boy, KNAPP.com. And I've got a new podcast out now, too. It's called Find Your Purpose, Live Your Passion. Check it out on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. Just type in my name, Gregory Knapp. It'll pop up for you. Appreciate that. You can jump in on the program at 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD, or Twitter at Chad Benson Show. How about this one? New Israeli research is out. This is from the Jerusalem Post that could allow you to choose whether you have a baby boy or a baby girl. So you're getting ready to start a family. And you've always wanted a little boy. You've always wanted to teach him how to play baseball and basketball and football. Well, now you can do it. Or you're getting ready to have a family. And you always wanted a little girl. That's what you really want. And now you can do it. Would you do it? I mean, we're getting close to designer babies. You know, the first thing last year, if you remember, there was a guy in China, and he claimed, and I don't know if he's telling the truth, but he claimed to have genetically edited babies. Okay? And he said he altered the embryos for 7 couples, and 1 pregnancy actually happened. And he said, listen, I wasn't trying to cure a disease or prevent anything that was inherited. I was trying to give this child a trait that would allow it to resist possible future infection with HIV. So isn't that nice? I mean, just trying to help people not get HIV. The problem is when you start manipulating the genes and editing the genes, where do you stop? And what are the unexpected consequences and unintended consequences that can come from that? And so now we're moving to sex selection. Well, hey, it's a lot better than sex selection by abortion. Okay, I would probably grant you that. But do we really want to get to the point where we are choosing the gender of our child and thinking that there aren't going to be any repercussions? That there won't be any unintended consequences? That this won't harm either the child or society? Look what's going on in China when they had their one-child policy and they were trying to get rid of daughters because everybody wanted a son because you need a son to take care of your old age. That's what they believe in the Chinese culture. And what's going on now with Chinese men that can't find wives? No, that's not going to be a problem. Nothing to worry about there at all. It's all going to work out perfectly. Remember the movie Gattaca? Man, that's a good movie if you haven't seen it. It was Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman, and the whole point of it was that in the future, we didn't have babies the old-fashioned way because, you know, then it's just a crapshoot. I mean, you get some of the wife's DNA, you get some of the husband's DNA, and, it's, you know, who knows what you're going to get. You get some weirdos sometimes. Yeah, and those weirdos, quite often, turn out to being people that change the world, right? But no. We don't want to let that happen. We're going to genetically edit the sperm and the egg and bring forth the very best possible child that could come from that union, and we get to decide what the best means. So in that movie Gattaca, you were either a valid, being made by the genetic editing, or you were an invalid, your parents having sex the old-fashioned way and just letting whatever happened. That was the premise of that movie, and now we're getting it in real time. So, Jerusalem Post, Israeli scientists have demonstrated the ability for mammals to mate and produce only female babies. Now, a similar system, based on identical principles, could produce only males. The reason they even tried this, the professor who started this said he saw an article where chicken farmers were killing all kinds of male chicks because they didn't need the male chicks. An advertisement said billions of chickens were killed annually by chicken egg farmers who had no use for so many male chicks, right? They don't want to raise male chicks for meat. They just want chicks for eggs. So when the male chicks come, they can't do anything with them. They just kill them. And he said he thought that was cruel. It was horrible. It was awful. So he was trying to figure out how can we just have all female chicks for them so they don't have to worry about that anymore. Sounds like an interesting idea. But now they're talking about you could do the same thing with humans. Does that make any sense? Would you do it? That's a big question. Would you do that? Have you seen those families that's like they've got 5 kids and the first 4 are all girls and you can tell they just wanted a boy? I mean, they were just going until they hit a boy and then they stopped. Or vice versa. 5 boys and there's a little daughter. Oh, they finally got their daughter. They're done building the family. Hey, wouldn't it be much better if you could just say, I want one of each and we're done? There'll be no unintended consequences, though, right? Nothing to worry about at all. You can mess with nature like that, and there won't be any problems. Remember Jurassic Park and Jurassic World and all that? And you got the guy, Jeff Goldblum, in there, and his character is always saying, you know, you got to be careful when you mess with nature because she will find a way. She will find a way. And of course, I happen to be Christian, so I believe God is knitting each human in his or her mother's womb. And that's how it should be done, and we shouldn't be messing with that. But, you know, a lot of people think no problem whatsoever. Let's just, hey, you want a 6'8" guy to play in the NBA? Sure. You want a girl that's 110 pounds so that she can dance ballet? Of course. You want to try and genetically engineer somebody's vocal cords so they can be a great singer? I mean, who knows what we're going to be trying to do? Want to increase that IQ, that's for sure. What can we do genetically to give them the very highest IQ? And there won't be any repercussions. I mean, we're great at that. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. Oh, I got some good news for you. U.S., we are the world's largest oil producer. We're now the number 1 natural gas producer. We're the number 1 oil producer. We're going to be very soon the biggest oil exporter. Who knows? Well, here's the latest from Bloomberg. U.S. crude output has soared to new heights, and that's OPEC's problem. Just days before they meet, we've got a new report out. Our production up 2.1% in April. 12.16 million barrels a day of the black stuff. Shale production is huge. Permian Basin of West Texas. So our oil output now is bigger than Saudi Arabia's. It's bigger than Russia. We're number 1. We're number 1. Remember, it wasn't just a few years ago. President Obama was poo-pooing the idea of drilling our way out of the oil crisis. I will not be poo-pooed. Yes, no poo-pooing here. Absolutely we could, and we did. And we were talking about all the above energy while the Democrats were talking about, no, we can't have any more oil. We can't have any more natural gas. We can't have any more coal. This is horrible. And now Obama's trying to take credit for it. It was about a month ago. Obama's like, that oil increase started on my watch. Yeah, in spite of you, not because of you. If you look, President Obama did everything he could to stop oil drilling and gas drilling on federal lands. All the increases were on state lands and private lands, not on federal lands. And now Trump's opening up some of these federal lands in addition to the state and the private lands, and we're number 1. And gas prices are staying low, and gas and energy is money. It is the economy. I mean, really think about it. What do you do in your day that doesn't require energy? Almost nothing. While you're sleeping, you've got either the air conditioner or the heater on almost all the time, right? I mean, maybe you find that certain couple 1 or 2 weeks a year where you don't have to use that, but almost all the time you got that going, right? You got your refrigerator running all night long. You've got many people leave their computers on all night long. You've got little lights on here and there around the house, security lights. All that takes energy. When you wake up in the morning to your alarm, it took energy. I'm using my iPhone. It's on a battery. Where do you think the battery gets its power, genius? You had to plug that in to recharge it, didn't you? Then you get up and you start making breakfast, takes energy. You take a shower, takes energy. You shave, takes energy for the water that you use because you wanted hot water, or you use an electric razor. You go and you get in your car, that takes energy. I have an electric car. Okay, did you plug it in? Yes. That energy probably came from a coal-fired power plant. Congratulations, you have a coal-fired car. No! Yes, most of you do. And on. When you get to work and you've got your computer, which is connected to a server, all that's connected to energy. You got to have lights on. On and on we go. Everything we do that makes the economy run takes energy, and there is no way right now that you can do that without coal, natural gas, and oil. And we're number one, baby. We are number one, and it's a great thing. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD, and you are in. I've got an interesting story here, and it just makes you say, hey, guess what? Not everybody is just in it for the money, and it's kind of nice. Veteran NBA guard Darren Collison. Now, I'll admit, I don't know this guy. I don't watch the NBA very much anymore. I mainly watch college. But this is the guy who's 31. He's played in the NBA for 10 years. He was on target to get a $10 to $12 million annual salary as a free agent if he signed right now in the offseason. $10 to $12 million per year. And he just said, nah. Whoa, what? Yeah, he just said, nah, don't need it. I'm quitting. He's retiring. Why? Here's what he told ESPN. While I still love basketball, I know there is something more important, which is my family and my faith. I am one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and my faith means everything to me. I receive so much joy from volunteering to help others and participate in a worldwide ministry. The joy I feel is unmatched. With that being said, I've decided to retire from the NBA. End quote. Now, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness, but I respect this dude. He's saying, look, I want to go out and help people. I want to go help the poor. I want to go volunteer. I've done it for years in my off time. Now I'm going to make that more of my on time. He's made $43 million over the last 10 years in the NBA. So, it's not like this guy's poor, I will grant you. $43 million over the last 10 years, but who knows where he spent all that money and how much money he has left. I have no idea whatsoever. But here's a guy that's giving up $10 to $12 million per year, and he probably would have signed a multi-year deal. I mean, he's a decent player, 12.5 points and 5.0 assists. Those are his averages, and he was looking to make $10 to $12 million a year, and he gave it up because he wants to do something else, and he just wants to help. Man, more power to him. I'm telling you, more power to him. And from one faith story to another faith story, did you see what happened to this Australian rugby guy? He played for the national team, Australian rugby guy. And his name is Israel Folau. And he's in a hearing now at the Fair Work Commission because he was tweeting out his religious beliefs. And one of the things he did was he listed a bunch of sins from the Bible: adultery, drunkenness, fornication. He was just listing a bunch of stuff from the Bible, and he included homosexuality. So he said, everybody who's doing these things is headed to hell unless you repent. And then he said, turn and repent. Jesus loves you, wants you to be saved. Didn't matter that he said Jesus loves you. Didn't matter that he said he wants you to be saved. What mattered was that he included homosexuality as one of the sins. And for that, he was kicked off the team. Kicked off the team. So the question then was, so wait a second. If you happen to have Christian beliefs, you're not allowed to be part of that team? Well, not if you're going to actually say it on Twitter. Was it part of the national team's Twitter feed? No. And he didn't say it very nicely. I would absolutely agree with you. That's nothing that I would ever tweet out. But even a liberal opinion columnist wrote a piece, and I'm sorry, his name escapes me now, where he said, listen, I don't agree with this guy, but are we now saying that you're allowed to have religious beliefs unless they're Christian? And he said, listen, if he had said that if you don't stop smoking cigarettes, you're going to die, and you need to stop smoking cigarettes, we'd be happy with him. But because he said this, we want to kick him off the team. And he's saying that he loves everyone, including homosexuals. And he's saying, I want the best for you, so I want to tell you about something I think is going to happen to you if you don't repent. And therefore, I want you to, because I love you and I want you to go to heaven. This is what the liberal writer was saying. And he's right, isn't he? I mean, like I said, I don't care if this was any religion or an atheist. Them saying what they believe like this shouldn't get them kicked off a team, should it? Or are we getting to the point now where we say, oh, yes, we believe in tolerance for all religions unless you say something in your religion we don't like? Isn't that basically what just happened to him? What do you think? 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD and you are in. California judge blocking some of the border wall. We'll get you the latest on that. And we've got our first Democrat presidential candidate who is campaigning in a foreign country. Wait, is that legal? It's coming up in a second. My name's Greg Knapp in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show, where we reach across the aisle and occasionally poke someone in the eye.
Hey, how you doing? My name's Greg Knapp in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. GregoryBKnapp.com for more about me. Gregory B as in boy, KNAPP.com. And also my new podcast just launching, Find Your Purpose, Live Your Passion, not about politics. You can find it at Apple Podcasts. Type in Gregory Knapp. So I got a few here that I think you're going to find interesting. Let me start across the pond in the UK. Do you remember this guy that was on the London Bridge and he fought off a bunch of terrorists and he was deemed a hero because a lot of people were able to get away? You remember this guy? He was lauded as a hero in 2017. And what happened was a bunch of these guys had knives and they were yelling about Allah. This is his quote. And then it was Islam, Islam, Islam. And like an idiot, I shouted back at them. I took a few steps towards them and I said, F you, I'm Millwall, referring to his favorite soccer team. Daily Caller reporting. So then he fought him off with his bare fists. He had stab wounds all over his body, but dozens of people were able to run by and escape. So he was labeled a hero. In fact, many in Great Britain pushed for him to be awarded one of England's highest honors, the George Cross Medal. And a Swedish brewery even named a beer after him. Well, guess what's happening now? He has now been forced by the British authorities to attend de-radicalization classes because they're afraid he may become an extremist. Because a bunch of Muslims stabbed him yelling Allah, they're worried that he might become a bad guy. 49-year-old Roy Larner. The Lion of London Bridge is what he's been called now because of the jihadis in the van that plowed into a crowd of people and came out trying to stab people. So he fought him off. He ended up in the hospital. He's a hero. And now they're adding him to a terror watch list because they fear he could become an anti-Islam extremist, according to The Sun. Here's what Larner said. They treat me like a terrorist, but I'm not political at all. The Sun reported he was added because people in the far right who were anti-Islam had contacted Roy because of his role stopping the terrorist incident. Are you kidding me? Meanwhile, a California judge blocks even more border wall construction with very dubious reasons. This one will be appealed. A couple of other courts had already said that Trump had the authority to do what he was doing with the money that had already been appropriated by Congress for the military. My name's Greg Knapp. This is the Chad Benson Show.